You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show. The preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as your father did, because, I don't know, he preferred your brother. Anyway, guys, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to Goodreads.com. I'm scarring people and bringing up trauma from the beginning of the show. This is what we do here. It's all about trauma. Go to Goodreads.com /Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com /Chris Voss, all those crazy places on the internet. You know them. We always have the most amazing authors and minds on the show. I'm the idiot of the show with the mic, so that's what we have to do. We have to balance the show, as it were. We have a brilliant author on the show. Her latest book came out January 11th, 2023. It's called Plan to Recover, Your Mini Journal for Recovery and Self-Discovery. Andrea M. Epting is on the show with us today. She'll be talking to us about her latest book. She's been over 20 years of experience in the field of mental health. She's a practicing professional counselor, master addiction counselor, EMDR certified therapist, certified sex addiction therapist. I should talk to her. And an approved clinical supervisor. I just like it. She's been who doesn't? Andrea's been a private practitioner since 2007 and specializes in the treatment of trauma, initiated process addictions, dopamine deficiencies, sexual dysfunctions, compulsive behaviors, and partner betrayal. She just described my sex life. She is the founder of the CEO of Heads Up Guidance Services, Inc., where clinicians provide pro bono services to meet community mental health needs. And she's the founder of Wise Mind Industries, Lightning in a Bottle digital courses, and the host of the Direct Impact podcast. Welcome to the show. How are you, Andrea?
Oh, Chris, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here with you and your audience. So thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Some of the things are in your bio describe my last 7 marriages. So.
You and a lot of people.
So let's start off. Was there any .coms we need to get out of you so people know where to find you?
Well, I appreciate you asking. Lightninginabottle.biz. So www.lightninginabottle.biz.
There you go. Keeping it easy.
Yeah.
So tell us about this new book, Plan to Recover.
Yeah, so it's a mini journal, a 90-day journal for recovery and self-discovery. And it's what we call a bullet journal. And we basically plan to recover. So it has a lot to do with planning and automating healthy habits, behaviors, AM routines, PM routines, and then reflecting on self as part of a daily check-in. And so we really have seen that when people show up to this journal regularly and daily, they can automate new behaviors in 90 days.
There you go.
Yeah.
How come you didn't make one for unhealthy habits?
Well, this is about taking your unhealthy habits and either putting them on the shelf or spending some time just changing your relationship with them. Or you can put in some healthier habits or things you might want to engage with more often.
There you go. Or you can just put in healthy habits you want to develop more. Like, drink more vodka. Don't do that, kids. It's bad. The attorneys make me say that. So there you go. What made you come up with the idea for this?
Well, just years of experience with both mental health and addiction recovery. I really have seen that when people are motivated towards change, they still really struggle with implementing it. So motivation just really isn't enough because they don't really have those trust bonds or connections with themselves to trust that they're going to show up every day. And this really helps them to stay accountable to self and build a healthier relationship to that person inside. So makes a difference. Yeah.
So you've been in this business for a long time. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up, what motivated you want to get into this business, and where you've arrived today.
Yeah. So I got into this field relatively haphazardly. I went to
I
school
crashed
for
my car and suddenly I was in
I
psychiatry.
I really I went to school for design, and I was going to be an interior designer. That's what I went for,
Oh, wow.
and I just felt this pull, and I really started enjoying my psychology classes. I really loved what I was getting into, and I was finding out more about myself and others and my
Mhm.
relationships, and I also really liked my religion classes. So I just double majored in religion and in psychology instead of getting that design degree I went for. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
how that happened.
you're technically doing interior design. You're just doing it with the
Ah,
mind, right? You're
oh, good
just doing it right up
call.
here in the
Yeah.
interior. Yeah. See,
Yeah, the internal landscape.
this is why they give me $5 a day for the show. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
And they throw me some scraps every now and then for food, and they let me out for walks in the sun once a day for an hour.
That's important.
Oh, yeah, that's what they tell me. So this kind of was a journal that you developed from your years of being in the business and understanding some of the different aspects of what people are
Well,
struggling with.
yeah, and also paying attention to my own struggles,
Hmm.
what was going on inside of me, the things I was struggling with implementing on a consistent basis. And so it's the journal I developed for myself that
Hmm.
wound up really changing my life. And so I thought, well, geez, if this is helping and working for me, it will help and work for my clients and probably all human beings. I mean, it's
Yeah.
developed for humans. It's not developed for a specific type of human. It's developed for all of us who have certain struggles and tendencies and
Hmm.
weaknesses that it would behoove us to look at.
Why do you do one for dogs and cats? Like, why leave them out? No, I'm just
What
kidding.
yeah. What well, why do you think, Chris?
They don't read, and plus they're really bad with their hand-eye coordination of turning pages.
I think it's the lack of thumbs,
Yeah, it's
perhaps.
the thumbs. Yeah,
The
that's you
opposable
got it. The
thumbs.
opposable thumbs. That always.
Yeah, it would be hard to write in your journal. Yeah.
That's what I tell my dogs. I look at them. I'm like, "When do you guys quit laying around this place and get some jobs?" And they're like, "We got no thumbs." So that's kind of a
Yeah.
problem, I guess. Which is probably better because otherwise they'd be opening doors and getting into stuff and causing all sorts of problems. And they're huskies; they do that anyway. So one question I have for you that
Yeah.
I studied psychology. I'm an amateur layman,
Mhm.
a study psychology, but study of psychology. Is that even a word? Um,
No. No,
it,
but I mean, it should be.
I know I heard once, and I can't remember who said that. It might have been Dr. Drew. Someone said that a lot of people that are in addiction recovery and in rehab for drugs and alcohol and different things of that nature have childhood sexual trauma. Is that true?
There are all types of sexual trauma.
Hmm.
There's overt and covert. So sometimes it's more of the messages that are received, the
Hmm.
comments, the triangulation, the enmeshment. So when I talk about that, it's kind of like when the son is playing the role of the father, that is sexual abuse. So when people hear sexual abuse, I think they tend to think of the overt,
Hmm.
obvious physical sexual abuse and assault.
Hmm.
So I say that to say yes, a
Hmm.
lot of people have experienced sexual trauma, but
Hmm.
not in that traditional sense.
Huh.
Mhm.
When the
Yeah,
son is playing the role of the father, that doesn't happen much, does it?
all the time.
Really? We had somebody on the show recently that
Hmm.
happened
Oh
to.
yeah.
They told me it was rare, but you see more of
Oh
this
no,
than he
it's
probably does.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
triangulation and the
Yeah.
children meeting the needs of the parents instead of the parents meeting their needs. That's pretty
Yeah.
common.
Yeah. Now, not to minimize any of this, but I do have to get this joke in here. Uh, can I experience trauma from just not getting any sex in the last year? That's a joke,
We
by the
call
way.
that sexual anorexia.
I'm gonna put that in my Tinder profile. I'm suffering from sexual anorexia right now, but not to minimize, folks. I'm just sometimes we have to apply some comedy and levity to things. So you work with people with counseling and stuff like that. Do you do any of that work that people can work with you on, or is that a local thing you're doing? Is that is that
Yeah.
is that any of the services or coaching maybe you offer on a website or?
Yeah, so lightning in a bottle, they do have coaches,
Mm-hmm,
and that's something that we are working on.
mm-hmm,
I have a nonprofit
mm-hmm,
locally in Savannah, Georgia, and a private group practice called
mm-hmm.
Resolve Strategies Inc. And clinicians are supposed to practice within their state still. There are
Yeah.
some changes underway that's going to allow us to practice across state lines. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
But until then, we will call what we do across state lines coaching. And yes.
It's kind of interesting how the world needs to change a little bit when it comes to the licensing and stuff. It's like seriously, but I guess it's power and money of states and what they can do. But it
Yep.
it
Follow the
seems
dollar sign. Just
yeah.
follow it.
I mean,
Mhm.
it seems like if you're certified and professionally licensed and have the schooling and training, we need more of you guys to be operate internationally,
That's
because
right.
these coaches, and I'm not throwing all coaches on the bus, folks, but there's
Mhm.
some of these coaches that are out, like selling crystals and shit, that they can work nationally, but licensed therapists
Exactly.
can't.
It seems a little backwards.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And we're really big on the show about how if you're going to seek therapy, go see a professional. Don't
Thank
don't
you.
don't talk to Amy Joe who's covered in tattoos and believes that crystals or whatever. I don't know why I'm turning against the three people listening to the show that believe in crystals, but stop it. Knock it off. Um the seek professional help. Like seriously, I've dated all my life, 35 years now. I should just hand out therapist cards on first dates. Um, so do the work. When you're healed, it's a whole lot different. You're like, I'm not getting involved with you. You're not healed. What is the importance of using your journal and having AM and PM routines in achieving your goals?
Yeah. Good question. I was not able to implement or automate anything consistently. This is just me personally. I
Mm-hmm.
could not do that. No matter what kind of information, training, education, or background I had, I could not do it if I didn't have an AM routine and a PM routine that supported those changes. And so I just figure if I struggled with that, other people are too. And so we say we want to change, but there are so many barriers and things stopping us and impeding our ability to do that. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
even if we're motivated. And so I have found that if you really support the behavior changes with AM routines, PM routines, you can find long term success. And this is about automating things and having healthy habits that are sustainable, that's going to give you that lifestyle shift that
Mm-hmm.
promotes overall health and wellness and self-love, I hope.
So do I need to do AM and PM then? Journaling, is that better than just doing it
Not
once a day?
necessarily. I journal in the PM,
Mm-hmm.
but I have an AM practice that supports the 3 main focuses that I have for that 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the beginning of your journal, you've got this what's called the Let's Get Moving page,
Mm-hmm.
and you establish 3 behaviors that you really want to focus on for the next 90 days. And
Mm-hmm.
so the AM routine and PM routine are supporting those 3 behaviors or habits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So maybe I want to disconnect from alcohol for 90 days. Maybe I want to see how that impacts my sleep. So maybe I want to disconnect from alcohol. I want to sleep 7 to 9 hours and I want to drink 120 ounces of water. Those are your
Mm-hmm.
3 behaviors. How does the AM routine and PM routine support that? Well, at night, I'm filling up my water bottle. So in the morning, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
So all of these things really help support change.
There you go. Yeah,
Hmm.
it makes sense. You want to make sure that you're ready for the next day. I have one of those nice reverse osmosis machines.
Ooh.
You have to fill it to use it. But one of the things that's important if you're going to intermittent fast or if you want to eat and drink healthy, you want to have really clean water, and it
Hmm.
makes a difference in the taste too. Like I'll tell people I'm intermittent fasting and I'm drinking water, and they're like, "Oh, I hate the taste of water," and I'm like, "If you
Good
got to get
water.
filtered right
Hmm.
and get
Hmm.
it tasted good. And it makes all the difference. Add some lemons.
Yeah. What's your window? I do intermittent fasting too.
I do it like a 16-8.
Okay.
So, or I try to get to 16. Sometimes I'm a 12,
Okay.
12, 12. But it kind of depends on when I want to. I start having thoughts about murdering people because I'm hungry.
There's
Um,
that.
and then yeah. The judge says I can't do that anymore. I get one of the 7 ankle bracelets removed
Yeah.
next week too. I'm happy
Yeah.
about that.
That's actually one of the triggers we identify in the journal is, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. So murdering
Ah,
somebody, that falls under anger
there you go. It doesn't. What about
or
hangry?
rage
What about
or
what about
Oh,
what
there
about
you go. The
hangry?
trigger is somewhere
Hangry.
between hungry and angry.
Yeah, yeah. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
They just there's some people that are like that. You're just they want to destroy the world, and you're just like maybe you're just hungry. Maybe you just need a Snickers bar.
That's right. And those triggers can really impact our behaviors for sure.
They can.
So my window is from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So it's a little rough
There you go.
sometimes. Yeah.
8 p.m. to 3 p.m.
8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
8 a.m. to 3 p.m. There you go.
Hmm.
I mean, breakfast is really. You don't need breakfast if you have strong enough coffee. I have
Definitely
coffee
not.
that's got a lot of extra
Yeah.
caffeine in it. That's probably not good for my heart, but I mean, I got to wake up.
Yeah.
Who cares if it takes 10 years off my life?
Yeah.
Excuse
And
me.
that was really the hardest part for me switching to that time because I never wanted breakfast. Now it forces me to have it, which has been a
Oh,
good change. A good
yeah.
change. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
some people can do it either way. There's some people that by flipping it the other way, they do better with it. So,
Hmm.
hey,
Hmm.
it works. Whatever works.
Yeah.
Um,
Whatever gets you out of your comfort zone, which is why I chose to do that. I'm like, we have to really push our comfort zones and
mhm.
make these changes. So it's important.
There you go. Now you talk about with the journal that people can use behavior automation
Hmm.
to help
Hmm.
them develop healthy habits. How does the
Yeah.
automation part work?
The automation works in the sense that you are tracking in this bullet journal every day that you participate in or achieve that wanted behavior. So, if the wanted behavior is to abstain from alcohol, you're tracking every single day that you are not drinking. So, it's a little bit of, again, just mindfulness and noticing and paying attention. And it's also a little bit of that dopamine kick that you get every time you get to check that box and be like, yep, I did what I said I was going to do.
There you
I
go.
said I wasn't going to do it. I did it and I feel great about it. That's excellent.
Hmm.
So after 90 days of being consistent, you really can automate that behavior. You can change your habits.
Hmm.
And of course, there are going to be things like if you find that maybe there was an addiction at play, maybe you find that there was some dependency. Yes, of course, it's going to be more than 90 days that you're going to have to keep that on your list. That could be up to 2 years, but that's okay. It's there and you're paying attention to it.
There you go.
Mhm.
By taking and doing that, you mentioned the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
I mean, being self accountable sounds like it's a large part of your journal, and being self accountable is so important. Because until you can be self accountable, can you really take a hard look at what you're doing and make change?
Yeah. Good question. I think that we can have some level of insight and awareness without being able to hold ourselves accountable. Yeah. I think it's what we call these stages of change when you look at behaviors and you look at addiction.
Hmm.
Some people are in pre-contemplation, so they're not ready. They're not even looking at changing. Some people are
Pre-contemplation.
contemplating a change.
Hmm.
So yeah, they're aware, but they're not ready to do anything about it. And then you can move into preparation where it's like, I'm preparing now to make a change. I do realize it and I am starting to hold myself accountable. And then they might move into action where they start being consistent.
Hmm. What was that term again?
Pre contemplation.
Pre-contemplation. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I've been in
Yes.
those
When,
stages.
sure, we all have. It's called denial. It's yeah.
Oh, I definitely been there. I live in there. I live on Denial, man. That's a
Yeah.
great river
Yeah.
in Egypt. Living on Denial. There you go.
That's
Uh,
right.
so even though is pre-contemplation where you're thinking, well, I'm in denial about what's going on, but maybe I should make some changes.
Nope.
Maybe it's time. You're just
That's
completely living on.
contemplation. You start to
Okay.
contemplate it. In pre-contemplation, it's really like, you know, it's like say you get in trouble at work because you
Hmm.
tested positive for marijuana or
How'd
something.
you
You're
know?
not looking at marijuana as the problem. You're looking at the job as the problem. You're looking at the government as a problem. You're looking at everything else. You're not even contemplating the fact that you smoked in a job that you knew you would get fired for as the problem.
My boss is in the bathroom with me doing it, so I thought it was okay.
Yeah,
So
well,
there you go. I handed out brownies, and now HR is calling me. So I don't know what's going on. But no, addiction is a real thing. I never understood addiction till I dated. You know, my mother had talked about her father had been an alcoholic,
hmm
and I never understood it because I never had a problem with addiction. I took a personality test like when I was really young, and they said I didn't have an addiction personality. But I remember I dated someone who had an addiction problem with alcohol, and it was a really weird addiction too, where her father had her father was a working banker, and so Monday through Friday he would go do banking. He was like a vice president. He was like up there in the old world banking days, and so he would do his work Monday through Friday as a functioning alcoholic. And then as soon as he got home on Friday, he would disappear into his tiki bar in the basement.
yeah,
And from Friday night to Sunday night, he would be soused to the point of no return, I guess.
yeah,
And he would disappear from his family, basically. I mean, I suppose you could go down there and hang out with him. I don't know if he was a mean drunk, but she was a mean drunk. But it was weird because she would only drink on the weekends,
hmm
and then she kept it very hidden. The wild turkey was underneath the
yeah,
sink
yep,
in the things.
hmm
And so for a long time I couldn't figure out what was going on and why we were breaking up every weekend.
hmm
But then the rest of the time everything was fine. And then I really started to understand addiction. I went to a couple of AA meetings with her um, and really started to see, what the difference was between that and maybe abuse of alcohol, which I've done.
sure,
Where you drink it too much and you drink too often, but you're not addicted where you don't get the shakes or the things. And then the other thing was is her physiology would change. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
sure.
So she wasn't a fun drunk either.
hmm
Which I imagine, I don't know, are most people that are addicted like that, or is it just some people that have that opposite effect of whatever drug they
Yeah,
take?
you mentioned about four things that I could hover over and highlight. A few misconceptions
Mhm.
of addiction is that it matters how much you use.
Hmm.
It does not matter at all how much you use. It's what happens to you when you do.
Oh.
And it's, do you do things that you didn't intend on doing?
Hmm.
Okay. Was that part of the plan that night? Okay. So it's not how much, it's more about why and what happens.
Well, is it okay if you don't remember? Then that's
Yeah.
fine. What
No,
happened the night before?
no, because somebody remembers usually.
Damn it. Yeah, that's usually
Yeah.
the text messages or
Yeah.
calls you get.
And then, like, one of the other misconceptions is that it's, just about, chemicals, because oftentimes when people don't have a problem, like generationally speaking, so you
Mhm.
might have a mom and dad who have no contact with chemicals, alcohol, or drugs because their parents were addicts. But then
Mhm.
the children, they usually will. It
Hmm.
manifests through behaviors, not always the use of chemicals.
Oh.
And so you'll see things like rageaholics, right? So the rage comes out, but nobody's medicating it with alcohol or drugs.
Wow.
So that's, one of the things that I noticed too. And then also the difference between use, abuse, or misuse, right?
Mhm.
Um, and addiction and dependency. So the misconception is that, like, if you're having withdrawals, that's addiction. No, that's dependence. And you can only become
Oh.
physically dependent on certain chemicals like opioids and alcohol.
Mhm.
So, like, sniff a bunch of Coke, you're not going to have physical withdrawals. You'll feel like crap,
Oh.
but it's not the same. And so there is a difference between addiction and dependency.
Well, that explains it more because I've always
Mhm.
wondered about that. I had friends that would smoke pot, they'd smoke cigarettes, alcohol issues. Man, if they didn't get their hit, they'd start jonesing.
That's right.
And I abused alcohol through about 20 years of my life,
Mhm.
where I drank pretty heavy. I'm kind of a, I don't know if, well, I'm trying to deny it, aren't I? I've always been a big guy, and I have a high tolerance for everything, like
Mhm.
drugs. I don't even really get into it. Kind of helped me not get into drugs because I have a high tolerance for it. Like I have to have a lot of something to enjoy it. Even like
Yeah.
aspirin, it takes several. It takes a lot more aspirin than normal to affect me, and so it was good for me. But I'd have to drink a lot of alcohol. Plus, I'm a kind of a big guy, so it takes a lot to get to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Um,
And that makes it more dangerous when you have a higher tolerance, doesn't it?
I imagine it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I never had the jonesing thing. Like my friends
Mhm.
would be like, "You're addicted too," and I'm like, "No, I don't get the shakes, dude. Like if I run out of vodka bottle and I'm like, hey, let's tie one on for the night or
Mhm.
whatever, and I'm like, oh shit, the vodka bottle's empty or half empty or whatever. I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go sleep and I'll go buy a
Right.
bottle tomorrow. Like I don't care. But yeah, I've watched my friends go through that. So what's so the difference between that is dependence,
Yeah.
the people who are
Alcohol
abusing.
dependence is when you see what happens when they're withdrawing from the
Ah,
alcohol.
there you
Yeah.
go. And
Yeah.
then and then so
Well, you're in
typically,
Vegas. You've seen Leaving Las Vegas. Is that
oh
what
yeah,
it's called?
that's my
Yeah.
favorite movie. Yeah.
That's dependency.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
but still, if I was abusing it, then that's still addiction because I was still going after it all the time.
Well, it could be abuse, it could be misuse. The addiction part comes in when you continue to do it despite consequences.
Ah,
Mhm.
ah. Well, I mean, good or bad consequences. most of my
They're
con,
usually bad or
most of my,
negative.
I mean, most of my consequences were just good. You feel good,
Yeah,
you're happy. You go, tie one on for the night. You go to bed. It's not good for your sleep. I used to be an
that's
idiot
true.
and think it was good for my sleep, but
Oh,
I've learned better. I in 2020 I just finally quit it, and my
mhm.
body part of it was because I was in my 50s and my body's like, we're not doing this with you anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and then I also kind of tuned into my body. I got really healthy, lost a lot of weight, started eating really healthy,
Mhm.
and then I started noticing that a few hours of tying one on Friday night translated to 3 days of bloating and dehydration and
Amen.
just
Preach.
feeling ground down. Like
Mhm.
I was just finally I was just like doing the math. I'm like,
Mhm.
a couple hours of fun on Friday night is not worth the
Yeah.
3 days of just like I would just drag for like 2 or 3 days. I could
Mhm.
feel my body,
Yeah.
and so I just tuned into it, and I just kind of it just kind of disappeared one day. I just said I'm not doing it anymore.
And I think now, I mean, I'm definitely noticing, and I'm one of them, people really are paying more attention to their
Hmm.
bodies and their hormonal shifts and changes later in life, and they're like, "I
Hmm.
can't do this alcohol thing anymore."
Yeah, the
And so
bloating.
they just stop they stop drinking, they get sober
Yeah,
curious, they disconnect for a
sober
while,
curious.
and they don't go back. I mean, that's what I was like, "I'm just not gonna drink for 30 days," and then 4 years later, I haven't I don't drink, so,
Sober
yeah.
curious. I like that. I've been sober curious. The but yeah, the bloating you get from the water retention, your body
Mhm.
overcompensates, and so I just be like, there it is. But I imagine being self aware and being self accountable really makes a difference. Maybe I went through some of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes all the difference, and just being willing, at least with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to take an honest look at, like, what's going on, and what will it actually take for change to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And this journal is an opportunity for people to look at certain behaviors and see what else needs to change for that to change. It's usually not as simple as, I'm going to, just look at this behavior every day and it's going to change. It's not enough to just track it. So this isn't just a bullet journal that tracks. It helps you evaluate. It helps you to go deeper. It helps you to look at the areas of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Chris, I heard you on another one of your episodes, and you mentioned that you're ADHD.
Yeah.
I am too. And people who are dopamine deficient, which is ADHD people,
Right.
executive functioning is a real challenge. And so I think this is why this journal worked so well for me,
Huh.
is because it really helped me with my executive functioning. The things that I would get overwhelmed and I couldn't really, stay consistent.
Yeah. I had my ADHD really beat, and then I had my testosterone tested about
Hmm.
7, 8 months ago, and found that my testosterone was a little bit low. It wasn't too low, but it was low, and so then I got on testosterone, and it's been largely beneficial. But the one thing
Hmm.
it's brought back is the ADHD. So
Well, I mean, it's very connected to our hormones
oh,
and
really?
what we're
So yeah.
producing and not producing. And so, like, it makes a lot of sense. I did love the way that you talked about it, though, as a superpower, because I am such a
Mm-hmm.
believer that my ADHD is why I am as good at the things that I am good at.
Yeah, squirrel.
Yeah.
Um, it's good. I've had more trouble managing it, and I need to focus on it. My mom said to me the other day, she goes, "Your ADHD is really bad," and I was like, "Squirrel,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I love
so
that. I'm going to focus on my ADHD. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
squirrel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna focus on my ADHD. Wait, there's something else. What? Um, the but yeah, it's always been a challenge, but it is the CEO's disease. They
Hmm.
they call it that, as you probably know, because
Yeah.
most CEOs have it, and it's the
And
madman
entrepreneurs
and
in
entrepreneurs,
general.
yeah,
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
general. But it's the madman that helps us create, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
biggest thing is trying to harness it. When I was young, as a teenager, I would check the door like 20 times a night to make sure it
Mm.
was locked, and I think my brother would wash his hands till they bleed. He did that part of the ADHD. I don't
Did
do
you
that
did
anymore.
you know that there is an OCD type of ADHD?
Really?
Yeah. So I have that, which
Uh-huh.
is an OCD type of ADHD, and it contributes to things like repetitive body movements and checking.
Hmm.
But when you have the combination of the two, it actually helps quite a bit to manage your symptoms because
Hmm.
you do have more of that hyper awareness and focus on certain things.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
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 The hyper. Maybe I have OCD too. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
I don't know. Every time I go to check, I go find something else to do. But but
That's
I
good.
know the great thing about your book and the journal thing is a lot of my friends who have addiction, it's a daily fight for them. And even if
Absolutely.
they've been in recovery for years or 10 years, even 20 or 30, it's still a daily battle for them. And so they have to make sure that they're on point every day, that every day they greet the day going, it's another day, it's another
One day at a
battle,
time.
one day at a time. And I know, and I feel that with my friends when I talk to them about what they go through with it. And you just go, wow, I mean, good for you, and fight the good fight, and I'll pour one for you. No, I'm just
Mm.
kidding. But yeah.
It is, and that's another thing that I really like about coming back to yourself, coming back
Hmm.
to your journal, coming back to the rooms so that you can stay focused on, the disease so the disease doesn't creep up and get you again.
Hmm.
Because it's always, like they say, in the parking lot doing push-ups, just waiting.
In the parking lot doing push-ups, Jesus.
Mhm.
My girlfriend who had the alcohol issues, it eventually killed her. So if you're out there
Mm,
listening, please get help. She died of potassium deficiency. She'd
yeah.
fallen and hit her head into the bathtub, and so she was stuck in the bathtub and couldn't get out. And her potassium deficiency from loss of potassium from alcohol consumption. I didn't even know that was a thing. But I had gone to one. I think I went to two AA meetings with her, and I was trying to encourage her to go by being supportive and going. Her mother pretty much lived at Al-Anon,
Mhm,
and because she had the father, then she had the daughter,
mhm.
and then but I remember sitting in there and hearing the stories, and there was one guy who he told the story about how he was drinking, found himself in the viaduct, and under the viaduct and living on the streets, and then got his shit together, got out of addiction, got his family, got a kid, got a wife, got a job. Everything was going good. One day he walks into a bar. Next thing you know, he's under a viaduct and he's lost everything.
Yep.
And I just hear the stories, and one of my friends, one of the my girlfriends had a girlfriend in the AA that was also an addict. And
Mhm.
one day I sat down with her husband, and I said, I don't know how you do it. And he goes, you need to be prepared. This is she's going to fall off the wagon all her life and everything else. And I done his mortgage because his wife had gotten drunk one day, beat him and the kids, and went off to Wendover, Utah, or Wendover, Nevada, and wrote an $80,000 check against the house and everything, and of course consequently blew it. So I had to do a mortgage on him to bail him out so that he could pay the casino. But yeah, he started telling me stories of the life, and I'm like, I can't do
Wow.
this. This isn't me. This is the rest of my life. I love her, but
Mm.
not going down that road.
Well, and I say that, when you look at the disease
Mm-hmm.
process, when you look at how progressive and pervasive it is, it's very clear to me that it doesn't just want one person, but it wants everyone who cares about them.
Wow.
And it impacts everyone around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So if someone's out there in the audience that's thinking about changing their bad habits, whether they just be like, well, I want to stop eating cheese because it's bad for me or something, or fattening, or it's someone with addiction. What's some advice you would give to people on taking those first steps?
Yeah. Gosh, there's a few things that I really I look at, like as far as key ingredients,
Mm-hmm.
like what are the key ingredients for success? And accountability is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can look like your journal, that can look like therapy, that can look like your meetings, that can look like your sponsor, that can look like the 12 steps.
Mm-hmm.
But accountability and community, which can also look like those things. So, community and connection. Um, it really allows you to get into the third ingredient, which is humility. And
Really?
humility is what it's all about at the end of the day. If I
Mm-hmm.
could put humility in a syringe
Mm-hmm.
and bend people over and inject it in them,
I know
I
some people
swear
on.
I would have people lined up around the block
Yeah.
and they would be recovered immediately.
Can you set up shop outside the Congress, the United States Congress?
Hey,
Shoot everybody
that
up
would
as
be
far as I can.
great because humility is that healer.
Yeah.
Humility is what we all need to be open, honest, vulnerable, transparent, intimate, all of those things that we're missing. So, yeah.
And I think, sadly with addicts, the humility comes when they hit rock bottom, when no one will talk
Mm,
to them anymore, and
that's
they've
right.
destroyed all their relationships. And there's a joke from Dennis Miller that the only time no one finds Christ on prom night in the back of a seat, the back of the car. They only find it after they're sent to prison and no one will talk to them anymore. And so then you take up conversation with God. Sadly, I think a lot of addicts end up in that sort of situation where
Yeah.
it's those were the stories I heard in AA. People had to bottom out before they finally got it.
Yeah.
But the humility of going, I need help. It's time to ask for help. Um, you know,
It's
that's
the first step.
yeah,
It's powerlessness and unmanageability,
yeah,
came to believe, right?
yeah.
It's what it's about is accepting that you can't do this on your own. You can do a ton of things on your own and you can do those well,
Mm-hmm.
but this is one of those things that you will not do in a vacuum. It requires community, it
Mm-hmm.
requires connection, it requires help
Mm-hmm.
and being humble enough to ask for it. I mean, a lot of the people that I know are who are in early recovery or even long-term recovery, they have a hard time accepting still that they have needs.
Mm-hmm.
And they have even harder of a time accepting or believing that other people can meet those for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think humility.
What are your thoughts? I mean, I don't want to crap on AA, but I know one of AA's big things is accepting that you don't have full control and
Yeah.
place your hands in God.
Yeah.
And I'm an atheist. I
Mhm.
am, and hey, if that's what you need to find your way out of the
Mhm.
darkness of addiction, yeah, God bless you. Even though I'm
Yeah.
an atheist, but the one concern I have about it is, I grew up in a cult of religion and believing that there was somebody up in the sky mucking with me as an
Mhm.
evil shithead sometimes, or you could
Mhm.
perceive it as such, really wasn't very empowering to me. And to be for me, self-reliance and self accountability means that I'm the last and final boss.
Mm.
I'm the guy. Like everything stops with me. If I was to believe for me personally, that there was still some guy in the sky who I guess on shitty days decides to be shitty to me, that really takes away my ability to be self-accountable. I don't know. Am I wrong
Yeah.
there? Or,
I
uh,
think that you and millions, maybe billions, share that same sentiment.
mhm,
This is what I have to say to that, is that yes, recovery requires what we would call a spiritual awakening,
mhm,
because you can't have recovery without some form of spiritual awakening. But when I look at God in the big book, or I look at God in a 12-step program, I say capital God stands for good orderly direction.
oh,
What is giving you good and orderly direction that is not leading you back to, your addiction?
mm,
And so for some people that is their meeting. For some reason, for some people it's their, church. For some people it's their therapist. For some, I
yeah,
mean, good orderly direction can come from all sorts of things. It can come from inside.
yeah,
um, I do think that is, a required ingredient,
yeah.
on the search for authenticity and humility. A
Mhm.
spiritual awakening is part of it.
There you go. And I guess basically, God and religion is a patriarchy, and people like the idea that someone's looking over and has their best interests at heart. So I guess some people can like that. It's just I see a lot of people who I don't know if they're addicts or not, but they seem to use God in a very bad format as a catcher of all the things they do bad. Well, God made me do it,
Well,
sort of thing.
and it's like fundamentalist.
Yeah.
um, I I don't think that religion should be utilized as a weapon.
Mhm.
I do think it can be. Spiritual abuse happens all of the time.
Oh wow.
I see it every single day, and it really is a barrier to healing.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that explains my childhood in the cult. So there you
Well, I mean,
go.
you're not alone, I promise.
There you go. I think I'm still being abused because I still have family in the cult, so I have to deal with it still. I
Mhm.
should probably think help. So, what's the best way for someone to reach out if they're hearing in the audience that maybe I need to get some help? What's the best first step that you would advise people to do?
Yeah, I really recommend that people go to a platform called Psychology Today
Mm-hmm.
and really look at people's areas of specialty. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure they are licensed in the state in which you are seeking services, and make sure that they're specialized in the areas where you feel like you're really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And then interview them. Make sure they provide a free consultation where you go in free of charge and sit with them and see if they are a good fit for you, because you want to interview them first,
Mm-hmm.
right? To make sure that that's who you want to partner with for your care. I see way too many people not fire their therapist early enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so please shop around like you would for anything. I mean, my gosh, you're going to get 3 bids on having your toilet replaced. Like, go and make sure that the person that you're going to for, your mental health is the right fit.
That makes sense. That makes sense because you're trying to replace the toilet in your brain. So, you know, try
Thank you.
get 3 bids. Damn it! Make sure that contractor is licensed, as always.
Thank you.
And don't buy crystals, people. Stop it. In astrology, knock it off, both of you. Final thoughts to people to pitch out to pick up your book as we go out.
Yeah, I would just say it's time. um, Now. Healing and everything you need in you is in you, and it's ready now. So go ahead and why don't you hop on lightninginabottle.biz or go to Amazon. You can type in Andrea Epting, or you can type in, the Plan to Recover mini journal. So I'd love for you to engage with it and see what happens and how it changes your life. Changed mine.
There you go. Every day, stay on point. That's the biggest problem we have. We don't stay on point every day, and you start sloughing one day, and then you slough off the next, and then you wake up and years have passed, and you're like, yeah, I should probably have done that. So there you go. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, Andrea. And
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Chris.
thank you. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Order up the book wherever fine books are sold. Plan to Recover, your mini journal for recovery and self discovery. And please, like Andrea said, if you feel like you need help, reach out, do it. Don't wait until you hit rock bottom or you hit that point where you're forced to be humble. You just don't want to be there, man. Just skip to the easy part or the good part. But please get help, seriously, especially if you know you have trauma or damage or any of those sort of things from childhood. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss, one of the TikTokity, and all those crazy places to find on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.